So now I'll entertain questions about anything from the audience. Turn the lights on. Okay.
I'd like to know more about the acid test graduation. It was going to be at Winterland, but you guys moved it to a warehouse?
Well, let's see. When we came back from Mexico, Kesey was still under the gun with the law. So our lawyer, Brian Rohan, went to the judge and said, Ken is back to tell everybody about the dangers of LSD and to exhort them not to indulge in it. And we're going to have, he wants to have a big gathering and call it the acid test graduation. And so the judge agreed to leave him out on bail for this. And so Kesey wanted to do Winterland, but Bill Graham, the big entrepreneur, heard about it, and he said, no. And so he booked Winterland the same night and had the Grateful Dead booked to play, because they were going to play with us. And so Kesey rented this warehouse down on, what's off of, what's that main street, goes to San Francisco, down towards the bay. Down there in kind of a rowdy part of town. But anyway, just a big old warehouse, and so we had the acid test graduation there. And it turned out to be a really neat scene. Artists of America. What was their first name? Anonymous Artists of America, an all-woman band. Really great band. They agreed to play, and so they played, and we had these diplomas made up, really official-looking diplomas with people's names on it. And so Cassidy got up on the stage, and he handed out the diplomas, called them up, and they'd come up and take it and everything. And we stayed there all night high and had a good time until morning and went home. Acid test graduation, yes.
How much of all that dialogue is remembered? Dialogue.
Well, luckily, we are movie makers and tape recorder freaks, and we have all that. We have so much dialogue on tapes and in the movies and that. So in this book I wrote, Cronies, when I had people speaking, I'd go in and listen to those tapes and get their actual words. I didn't try to make up people's talk, particularly Cassidy. I would never try to make him up, but we have hours of him talking. And so the nice thing when you're writing, you can take things that happened over here and put them in here, move them all over the place because nobody knows until they read it, and then you don't tell. Yeah.
Can you tell the story why Kesey never made it to Woodstock?
Why Kesey never made it to Woodstock? Well, let's see. It was 1969, and the astronauts were walking on the moon. And we were in Kesey's barn, and we had a setup in there with all these TV sets going, showing the different shots of them on the moon, and we had the tape recorders going, and then we had the microphones going, and we were rapping along with them and playing our instruments and everything, and having a whole production of moonshot or moonwalk. And the phone rang, and I got it. It was Wavy Gravy, the head of the hog farm down in L.A., and he said they're going to Woodstock to work there. It's coming up later that year, that summer, this big festival in New York, which we had all heard about happening and everything. And he wanted to know if we would come along and bring the buses and help the hog farm with their job of running a free kitchen, and also they were supposed to be what they called a please force, which they'd walk around saying, "Oh, please don't hit that guy anymore." Please quit sticking your head in the sand so deep. And then they also had a tent, which they called the freak out tent, for when people got too loaded and got too crazy. They'd take them in there. So at one time in my house I had a wall where I could hear bees in there, and so I cut a hole in the wall, and I looked, and yeah, there was a whole beehive in there. So I put a piece of glass over it, and I would spend a few hours every day watching the bees. It's responsible for my tremendous calm. Because every once in a while, these bees in there are working like mad. One bee would suddenly go crazy. He'd flop down, I'd be going like that, and then all these other bees would come over, and they'd start stroking him with their little feelers and all happy. And he gets up and goes back to work. So, at Woodstock, when people would freak out and they'd go in the freak out tent, I'd get all the hog farmers to go there and until pretty soon, feeling pretty good. Gets up, goes back, falls in the mud. There's a lot of mud. Did it answer the Woodstock question? What was the question?
Why Ken never made it there?
Oh, why Ken never made it there? Well, he was so happy to see, at the time at his place, his farm out there in Pleasant Hill, there were 4 buses and 40 people. He was so glad to see all of them go. And leave him alone. He said, no. But later on he told me, he said, I wish I had gone to Woodstock. It's just like when when everybody went to the pyramids, I didn't go. And I said, yeah, just like I wish I'd always gone to the pyramids. We're all here.
Was that the last big trip that further made, was to Woodstock and back?
Yeah, it did go. Oh, yeah.
You took further to Woodstock?
Yeah, David Butkovich drove it.
No wonder it kind of broke down.
That's why I asked you.
We had a way back. You went your own bus.
I did, yeah. Yeah, 4 buses went.
Wow.
That was a neat scene. The big stage was over here with on this field with going up this hill, it held hundreds of thousands of people. But then you crossed up once a hill and went through these woods and down another hill to another beautiful scene where the hog farm had theirs set up. And I had my buses parked there in a kind of a semicircle and set up right on the ground. We'd come out and play our instruments in the evening. And one night when we were there early, we were playing, and this other group started joining in with us and singing and playing. We just let them take over because they were really good. They were called the Quarry, and they came from New Jersey out there, and they took over, and they became the band. They were the Free Stage Band. We called it the Free Stage, and they'd play every afternoon and every evening. And during the day, the hog farmers even built a little stage about this high, kind of a big one. I remember one day I was over at the big stage, and I was sitting on the side looking across the stage, and Joan Baez was out there playing and singing. So I watched him. Then the next day, I was sitting on the side of the free stage looking out over there, and I heard this singing, and I looked out there. It was Joan Baez in exactly the same position and singing just like she was on the big stage. That was really nice. But we would let, during the day, you could walk up on the free stage from this side, walk over to the microphone and say who you were and where you came from, or even play a little song or something, and then walk off the other side and go away. That was fun. Woodstock was a lot of fun.
Oh, you were mentioning the buses. A friend of mine of the Summers family sold the second further bus to Kenesee in 1990 or 91.
Oh yeah? Here in town.
The Summers family, yeah.
Yeah, here in town. Yeah, I was sitting out there in Franklin there in a lot through the For Sale Center. That's good. Yeah, that bus is still going.
That's amazing.
His son Zane used it. In fact, in the 50th anniversary of our 64 bus trip, Zane recreated that whole trip. went all cross country and back with the bus. And he said it was amazing, even, was it 50 years later? I think it was. He said there were, in all these small places in the woods, there were people still going out there on Saturday night getting high had little stages, played music and did,
At Gasker's Farm?
huh?
Across the country. Oh.
Yeah, just different places, just different small places. It was going on all over the country. I was glad to say he's still hooping with the hoop.
Very important.
Yeah, some things never die. Good, healthy activity. And just a little bit of acid to grease the thing, whatever it is, the hoop.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you graduated from the acid test and they gave you the diploma,
Yeah.
if you used acid again, would you have to give the diploma back?
Well, no, once you had the diploma, you had it, and it also gave you the freedom to do acid whenever you wanted. And if anybody gave you any shit, you just show them your diploma. I happen to have my card. No, not really. Oh, look, maybe I do. No, that's my Marine Corps card. That's the one I show to the cops whenever we get stopped by the cops. Yeah, when on the bus, we'd get stopped by the cops a lot, and Cassie'd be driving, and he'd get out, and he'd be talking, and Casey'd say, Babbs, go out there and cool him out. So I'd go out, and I'd show the cop my Marine Corps card, Captain of the Marine Corps. And pretty soon he's talking to me about, bullshit Marine stuff. Neil Cassidy's sitting there standing there watching me push mother cigarettes. Just madder than hell for me interfering with this. He could have handled this. Might have taken a few days, but he'd never stop talking.
Can you elaborate a little more on Neil's driving?
Neil was quite a driver, He was noted for that, cross country with Jack Kerouac and all that, and prided himself on his driving. But on the bus, when he first started driving the bus and we headed out to New York, he had people standing and hanging around him because he was talking all the time. But he was also, as he talked, gyrating with the bus and slapping it. And the bus, I was sitting in the back and it was going, until finally I yelled at him. I said, Neil, I said, it's all right in a car to be driving like that, but in a bus, you're throwing all of us back here. I said, if you want to show your prowess as a perfect driver, make it feel like we're in a living room of a house and we can get up and walk around, do all kinds of stuff when we're going 60 miles down the road. Fucking Babbs.
No power steering.
No power steering.
Big monkey arms.
Yeah. No, but he turned into a really good driver, and he was knighted for his driving when we were coming down off the Blue Ridge mountains in the East Coast there. No brakes. Coming down at night, long ways, and him handling it all by double clutching and shifting down to slow down on the curves and stuff, and then shifting up and then down again and everything, and finally coasting to a stop. In the morning, as the sun has come up on this grassy swell, and Kesey yelling at me, Babbs, get your sword, because I had a wooden sword that I would brandish occasionally, and a cape. The intrepid traveler. And he says, get your sword. And so I came out and gave to him, and he said, Neil, okay, Neil, kneel down. And he tapped him on his shoulder. He says, I hereby knight you, Sir Speed Limit. So he was Sir Limit from then on.